Hello everyone. For this practice, we are going to continue with the Billionaire mantra, Basan Kivar. So we're going to dive right in. This is going to be part 3 to the Billionaire manifestation. So in my earlier parts, we discussed about what is the billionaire manifestation. Now we're just going to go deeper. I'm going to go into a more of a meditation so that we can really connect to our self-worth, a high self-worth where we really trust in our intuition. A lot of our wealth is developed through a great trust in our intuition and our ability to show up for our intuition. So we can ask ourselves, am I showing up to my intuition? Because intuition is really the foundation for the building blocks and moving towards that billionaire frequency. And like we've discussed, the billionaire frequency, it can be, we think of the white supremacy, like the Jeffrey Einstein type of billionaire access, but it also can be the Nikola Tesla, which this individual was not a billionaire, but the ideas and the excellence of that person was able to create a billionaire frequency for the followers, right? For those who are able to have the ability to unlock what he offered humanity, and to know how to organize it and deliver it. And a lot of people who have done that based off of Nikola Tesla, have been able to uphold the billionaire frequency. Another example that we discussed about was J.K. Rowling. A wonderful example when I think of real creative fulfillment when we're talking about the billionaire frequency. I mean, everything about the J.K. Rowling, which is we know as Harry Potter. I mean, it's just, there's so much, like Nikola Tesla, there's so much brilliancy behind that, right? There's such a deep craftsmanship, there's such a deep creative practice, right? And I think when we start to meditate the mind and kind of clear out these projections, non-realities, the distractions, a lot of times, the patriarchal age has been set up for us to just live in these illusions and this delusion and in these non-realities and these projections. Because as long as we're distracted, we're not going to be in alignment with our intuition, right? So we procrastinate, we doubt for too long, we lose leadership. And like we discussed, right, the billionaire frequency has a lot to do with global leadership, where you are in this kind of momentum of this like hyper synchronicity, right? Like I said, like a lot of the billionaire type of manifestation is sort of what we call it's kind of a futurist intuition, right? Like when I think of about, again, that like the Nikola Tesla or the J.K. Rowling, very, very different people, right? Very different. But their creation had a sort of a futurist momentum in the way that it was able to kind of expand a generation and then move into another generation. And like that's what we talk about, the generational wealth. So, but in order to have that kind of foresight, that insight, you have to have an intuition. You have to have some kind of trust in yourself. And the only way we gain trust in ourselves is we need experience. We need experience. So we have to go out there. And a lot of times we fail. And you see all these kinds of examples of people who have millions or billions and then they lose it all. but then they build it back up again, because there's a sort of experience that they gain, and they become very, very smart at knowing how to transform. But when we're not listening to our intuition, most likely we're in these distractions, we're in these childhood issues, there's a lot of subconscious and unconscious stuff going on, and we're just completely numbed out to it, and we have no idea what's really going on. And then we say we know what's going on with us, but really we're disassociated with ourselves. Right? And in that the world, the patriarchal age that we've been in will set us up to be disassociated with our natural instinct and intuition. And we can go down that rabbit hole and reasons why it's been set up that way. But we can kind of I'm sure we can all agree that in a way for us to, as long as we're not paying attention and being vigilant and seeing the reality, right, the forest from the trees type of thing, we're there's no competitive edge, right? In a patriarchal age, that's kind of so much about the competitive edge and having the foresight and the futurist type of mind. If everybody can kind of tap into their intuition and could see, the forest for the trees type of thing, I mean, you would have some pretty competitors. You would have, and the same thing when we think of like Nikola Tesla. He was again a real competitor. He brought a competitive edge, because he was not only such a futurist, but he was so focused on his intuition. Nothing could waver him. Nothing could waver him. And that's why he was able to manifest so much in his lifetime, because he was not wavering. He was very much sensitized and wanting to give full attention to what is going on with him, what's coming through him. He was so vigilant to what is coming through him. A lot of times, things come through us and we are, no, that's not it. That's not it. Oh no, I cannot do that. This is an excuse, doubting, procrastinating, and then you lose it, right? You miss it, right? A lot of times we've been set up in many ways to kind of be like that. But the insight, the foresight, whenever, even with, just high manifestation, there's a kind of foresight, insight, and a futurist type of mind that you need, so that you can really understand the kind of movement or maneuvering or momentum that you need to create in this moment, so that you can align with that, right? So you can enter into that realm. And I think the billionaire frequency is just, there's so many realms upon realms that we can go into, right? And we're in our lifetime, we are going to be moving through multiple realms. It could be like geographic locations, it could be relationships, it could be careers, it could be mindset, so many things. But I think the billionaire frequency is what we call like ascended master type of understanding of alchemy, an understanding of transformation. And usually for a lot of people, it can be incarnational in the making. It's a high esoteric understanding of how energy works, right? So we think of it like, just white supremacy, right? Like just generational wealth, right? We're like, why, is it just all these white men, right? When we look at them and they all kind of look somewhat haggard, or they look kind of old, or they look privileged, right? Or it looks like it was just generational wealth, right? It's just kind of been kept in the family, or it seems easier for these individuals to obtain it because of they're exactly what the patriarchal matrix wants, right? But what's happening is people are breaking through the model of what that type of billionaire frequency looks like, and that's kind of what it's doing. It's sort of what we call what's the word, glitch. It's creating a glitch in the patriarchal matrix that was created going all the way back to like the Babylon and the Sumerian and the Middle East and China and the pharaohs, right? What's happening is that people of women like J.K. Rowling, she creates a glitch right? She may be white, but being the woman and being of a creative type of, right, creates a glitch, which I see creates a tear in the confinements of the mind. And when you have enough people who are creating a glitch and a tear in the patriarchal matrix, what is it's doing is it's creating this like hole, right? This tear, right? And over time, can get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where the whole confinement is just like, right? You can get in, you can access it. People are starting to understand that, wait a minute, we as human beings, as the collective, as an individual in our own meditative space, but also as a collective, we can rewire and override this entire patriarchal matrix. And I think a lot of these elites are, billionaire grouping that, right, which I always imagine like just white men, right? Because that's what it's been set up. It was set up on that foundation, right? It wasn't originally, it was not set up for, women and brown and, right? A lot of times when people think about like conspiracies of like the Illuminati or like the Masons, or when you go back into the history and see like photography of like a kind of initiation or group, I mean, you can look into it, and in that auric kind of movement that's happening, and it's heavily in this patriarchal matrix, right? Which is the withholding of information, the discriminating of, right, the withholding information, discriminating, segregating, separating, and withholding. Wait, no, withholding of information, discriminating, segregating, separating has been like the common type of method, right, of trying to make sure that you are the top competitor, right? So, but with a lot of people, like of all, different generations, right, and different ethnic groups and different races and sexes, people are finding there's so many glitches that are happening in the system. There's so many glitches because people are, starting to sensitize their system. It's almost like we've been in this mirage, right? And we're sensitizing our system, and we're starting to open our eyes, open our sort of mind, and starting to connect to some esoterics that anybody can access, like a Sachic record, right? Anybody can ask that. You just need to know how to, like go through a library. You need to know when the librarian says, right, this, it's in this section, right? You need to know how to find that, right? So a lot of people are doing that. They're finding it within themselves. The esoterics, or the knowledge, or the resource, or just the will, or the ascended mastery type of teachings on energy. Right? And I think J.K. Rowling and Nikola Tesla, they, again, Nikola Tesla not having that billionaire, but his, I would say his like disciples, I would say, are like billionaires, like modern time billionaires in today, right? And, with J.K. Rowling, they both have this, this great connection to the creative flow of themselves. They both have this excellent creative flow with themselves, and that evolves throughout time, and they know how to evolve with it. That's the thing. Some people, when they don't know how to transform, and they are too think about what people think, and they're distracted, they're avoiding, I'll get to it, and they're not really right. What happens is your creative flow gets kind of wanky. It becomes outdated, it becomes old, it becomes stale, it becomes repetitive, it becomes a mimic, an imposter, it becomes just the same old. So I think the thing with Nikola Tesla and J.K. Rowling, why they were so, or in that creative flow, because they were really being devotional to they're being devotional to the intuition. There's a sort of like a focus on it. There's a sort of dedication. There's a sort of there's a great development in the intuition, right? Because the billionaire frequency, what makes it different, right, is that it's about generational wealth. It's not just about the moment. It's not just about quick cash. It's not just about, like we discussed, it's about, it really has to do with humanity, right? It has to do with some sort of idea, invention, technology, creation that has an influence on humanity, that has some kind of intention or some kind of momentum that is going to help humanity to evolve or help put humanity in a timeline, right? And like with J.K. Rowling, like if you've ever been through like the Harry Potter world, right? And like, Orlando, Florida, and you go into it and it just puts you in this timeline with your own mind, your own life, that this timeline, it does something to your actual human interaction with reality, right? And that can go either way. It can be like it becomes more restrictive, which we've seen, right? It becomes more like it puts your human relationship with reality more in a kind of delusion, which is about like that kind of the oppressing of human, or the sort of the kind of putting human more in an uninvolved, immature, irresponsible type of timeline, right? It can go both ways. Or it can put you in a timeline of like, an evolution where it does something to your relationship with reality in a significant way, in a way that actually creates a cultural or society shift, in a way that can really decide what kind of relationship people will have with reality. Is our relationship with reality going to be poor? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be excellent? And that billionaire frequency is that kind of, that ability in many ways to kind of move that, to decide that, right? So we've seen, what's happening now is that because many people, are of all kind of different groups of people, different classes, ethnicities, type of thing, generations are having, it's not necessarily the aiming for the billionaire. It's the aiming like for your creative flow. It's the aiming for how can I develop my intuition so that it's excellent. Foresight, insight. How can I know the symbolism of my dreams, know the seasons of when I should be on the ball, when I should rest, right? The phases, the rhythms of this earth. How can I be in sync with that, right? So we think about all these type of, global leaders, right? That have some kind of, major decision that they make, and it really kind of sets the stage, right? Everything kind of, resets based off of these decisions, right? That these perceived billionaires, right, make. And I think that's changing because the collective is understanding that they're understanding the glitches. They're seeing the glitches, and they're beginning to kind of awaken to the idea that reality is not set by anybody. It's not decided by anybody. Right? And that kind of idea just unlocks the mind within people where they start to realize, wait a minute. Through my creative flow, my intuition, I really can be able to master energy. I can unlock more of realms. Maybe I've never entered into higher realms, more liberated realms. And people are doing that and have been doing that. It's in the more liberated realms, we'll say, right? Or in the more liberated interaction and relationship with your karma or your reality or whatever it is, circumstance, environment, that really gives you more energy. And I think the billionaire mantra, the billionaire kind of space holding is just immense energy, right? Immense leadership, immense energy. that usually that energy is not just developed in one lifetime. Like we said, it's generational wealth. That's why it has such a huge momentum that can't be broken. It's unstoppable because of the generational wealth or the incarnational type of movement with reality, in the way that um, you've gotten a really liberated experience and a liberated in a relationship with liberated experience, a liberated a relationship with your life, and with the possibilities and with the infinite. So in that kind of billionaire frequency, it's really about knowing how to maneuver through this vastness in a way that you gain energy, but not just you're gaining energy, you're being able to use that energy you have to create a sort of opening for this planet, for many people to kind of go into this timeline. It's like really billionaire frequencies, like you create your own dimension, your own realm, and you anchor it here. Like Tesla and J.K. Rowling, like they are anchoring a complete dimension on this earth. And again, it can go into the negative where you're anchoring a complete dimension of, like, white supremacy type of stuff, right? Or like sex trafficking and that kind of, you can anchor that here as well. It's a polarity. So, we're going to dive more into the frequency, and we're going to uncover more of our sort of great connection and access to our creative flow, our creative reality, so that we can amplify that, expand that, and really step into the excellence of our ability to create of a momentum of creative discovery and creative impact. But again, that same thing, it can be destructive impact. It can be the opposite of that, right? The polarity of that. But we want to focus more on the J.K. Rowling, on the Nikola Tesla type of momentum, where we're introducing timelines to humanity, dimensions to humanity that actually sets the stage for humanity within a society or culture or relationship with the planet to be one that is going to be more resourceful, rather than paranoid and competitive and aggressive.